Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Academy Talk Radio. This is the Ask a Medium radio show. I'm your host, Reverend Ivy Rivera, psychic medium, coming to you from the Ivy League Psychic Academy located in Buffalo, New York. But we are an international school here, so you can Skype in for classes all over the world. I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Theresa Matuszak. How are you, Theresa?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Pulling it together. It's going to be like -10 wind chill something tomorrow, I heard.
It is freezing. Yeah, it's freezing. My
Literally.
fingers are so cold.
If you threw water up in the air, I think it's like one of those videos, like it would just turn to ice, like right in the air. That's how it feels. So yeah, but I'm good. I just don't look outside for the next few months. So we're here coming to you guys with an interesting topic tonight called Clearing the Air, Religion versus Mediumship. We want to break down some of the myths that have been out there for hundreds of years in many different religions that are negatively categorizing mediums, psychics, along, they put us in a category of what?
Devil worshippers and magicians and, people who sacrifice others as murderers,
Murderers, rapists,
so forth.
Did you rape anybody today?
Not yet.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that. So, just so we're all ready to accept apparently what we've been, labeled as. It's absolutely outrageous. And we're going to not only break down, some of the horrible categories mediums have been placed in for hundreds of years, but we also want to talk about what we actually do. We're not murderers. We're not rapists. This isn't even necessarily,
anything.
Yes, witchcraft even necessarily.
Yeah.
So we are going to be talking about how it actually works. We do, of course, communicate with spirits, but we want to talk about which spirits those are. So we have a lot to discuss in this show. The show's been a long time coming. We've been under a couple different, more paranormal umbrellas with a few of the radio shows that I did before this one, and this is nice to be out from under that. We can speak freely, we can do what we want on this show, and we're looking forward to doing this, and hopefully we can get it all in one show. You guys feel free, listeners, to call in or to send in your question online there. What is the number that they can call in if they have a question or comment?
646-668-2353.
Okay, can you say that one more time?
646-668-2353.
Okay, wonderful. And a couple of things coming up at the Ivy League Psychic Academy. We have level 1 psychic mediumship development class beginning next Tuesday, January 10th. It runs for 15 weeks. You can register. We are pretty much full. If you're going to register, you really need to do that now. And this will train you, any beginner, any advanced learner, in 15 weeks to be able to go out professionally and give a reading to the public. We have a ton of other classes coming up, one on relationships and cord cutting, past life connections, family, friends, lovers. That's all included in that class. We have a dream analysis class coming up, Reiki training, meet your guides, hauntings, clearings, and attachments. What else do we have? Coffee with your angels.
Coffee with your angels in February.
You guys have a tag gallery coming up.
Yes, we do. Actually, it's Sunday, February 12th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. It's basically free to the public, and what it is a few of the students from the academy, we all pretty much get together and collectively together give message to the audience. So it could be loved ones, it could be from spirit, it could be from, guides and so forth, basically just help them, and it's kind of our way of helping a whole lot of people at one time, isn't it?
It is, and it's always a hit, and it's a free event. So if you guys want to reserve your seats for that, you can text the number that's up on the website. For more information on any of the classes, www.ivyleaguepsychicacademy.com. Okay, so let's get into this topic. We want to address a couple of religions out there and what they have been saying for hundreds of years about psychic mediums. And the first one that, I want to go to is the Muslim faith, because we could get that out of the way a little bit faster, okay, but it spans a ton of people. So we're looking at some of, let me see which one this is. Okay, so the basic faith, okay, is that psychic mediums, okay, in the Quran, psychic mediums have made a pact with jinn, which is the devil, and they say that none in the heavens and the earth know what is unseen except for Allah, God, nor can they perceive when they shall be resurrected. So the belief is that we cannot get any information that is of any value that is unseen unless it comes directly from God, and no psychic can ever tell you when you're going to die, basically. Okay, so I want to say on that note, this is fairly accurate. A true medium is getting their information, though, directly from God. So the debate is not whether or not we're getting it from God. It's where is that individual's information coming from? Are some lying and saying that they're getting it from a higher power? Sure, absolutely. Sure. But in reality, a medium who is actively working in the light is hearing it through God. Now, you could say that it comes to your higher mind. It comes through the Holy Spirit. It comes into your intuition. There are a lot of ways that we receive it, but ultimately it is coming from there. So the attempt here, a lot like Catholicism, which we're going to get into, the attempt here is to disconnect the average human being from God. They cannot be hearing from God, which is not the case. Also, the idea that we can't tell when someone is going to die is not at all the case. If we were to look at an astrological chart, which is also a huge no-no in these faiths, right? We were to look at the astrological chart, we see these, I've seen it as a little triangle. These are death points. These are opportunities that the person has to die, not meaning necessarily that they will, but it could happen during that time. So we know that everyone is going to die eventually. And can a psychic predict that? We kind of can, but there is a lot of free will involved in that.
I do want to add in there, too, is in a lot of points, it depends on how the word death really is perceived. Because, like, if you look at tarot, which is another big no-no, there's a card in there, which is the death card. It doesn't mean you or someone you know is going to die. It's merely the ending of something, usually a major point in your life. So it's not necessarily that you are going to, you're going to go. It's basically something that you're majorly dealing with is going to pass and a new beginning begins.
Yeah, death is a birth.
Right.
Always. And even in the literal case, physically, death is a birth, which is a major part of the problem here with these stigmas. So if in the Muslim community, if you were to go to a seer, to a prophet, to a psychic, a fortune teller, you would be punished. For 40 days, God will not answer your prayer as punishment for disbelieving in Allah. So here is a little bit more on this belief system. The reason the prophet explained that the reason why the fortune teller sometimes gets it right is that jinn tells him something that he has heard. So the devil will go and will whisper in the ear of the psychic, telling the psychic something that they heard while the devil was eavesdropping on angels. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so we've got the Muslim faith out of the way. But, here's the thing with that. There is a ton throughout Catholicism, the Christian faith, and a million other denominations that mirror that we are actually hearing from the devil, and we're masking it to pretend that we're hearing from good spirits, higher ups, and God.
Absolutely.
Right, and we're going to get into a couple minutes here, basically, where we are getting our information. We can assure you that it is not coming from the devil. But here are some areas we're told that the devil's getting in. We're hearing from Satan. Okay, if you meditate, horrible. Watch that quiet. Let no one sit in silence ever. Don't let the noise stop. Don't ever become quiet. Don't quiet. Okay, you might think something true. Yoga. Holy cow, the damage yoga does, right?
Insane.
I mean, look at how flexible they are. That can only be coming from the devil. Ouija boards. I have to agree a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah, only because, I mean, I've never had a personal experience with the Ouija board, only because I was taught at a very young age not to touch it, to go near one. But from things that I have heard and seen over the years, yeah, this is something really people need to be mindful of. I mean, I don't remember who exactly make it, Parker Brothers, you know.
It is, actually. Parker Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So there's
the makers of Monopoly and everything else.
So, it's like, that was never the intent. But the thing is also intent is another thing that people have to be mindful of.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the Ouija board and people not being trained with intent or discernment ahead of time, it is an extremely successful tool. There's a reason the Ouija board has been around for this long. It's sort of like what the Fox sisters, right? The founders of the spiritualist religion, with their system of knockings, alphabetical order, numerological order that the parents came up with. It's sort of like what they designed, almost to a T. So it's really a highly functional system where a lot of spirits are attracted to it because the communication is so clear cut. And that is a dangerous thing without discernment and intent. I absolutely agree. What else? Fortune tellers, witchcraft, sorcerers, astrology, false prophets, conjurers. What other things have we been told are bad or in this same category? Basically, if you touch this, you're in trouble. Does that pretty much cover the list?
Pretty much covering.
Okay. All right. So
tarot. I don't know if you mentioned tarot, but tarot.
Oh yeah, tarot. Anything used palmistry. I mean, anything. Any kind of fortune telling is put in this category here. So what we're really trying to figure out is why all of these things. Why are we being told that all of these things are so negative?
Or at least in one category. You know, it's like it's not even like anything is looked at individually. It's just all deemed poof, it's bad.
If you're meditating or doing yoga, it's somehow connected to sorcery, devil worship, rape, murder. It's insane.
It is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it's really, I mean, for me, it's kind of disheartening because, with growing up, different, looking at different things, but it's like, why would something such as, we'll say yoga, Reiki, Pilates even, something that's there to actually help you to maintain a better lifestyle and to help you be more spiritually minded, which is what the church wants, right? People to be more spiritually minded. It's weird that it's all devil worship, but as time has gone on, more people are doing it, more people are saying, hey, nothing bad's happening over here, let's try it, and it becomes a much bigger thing. Well, that falls to the wayside, and then the new thing comes in. Oh, no, don't touch it.
Yep. So many of these things bring in good, positivity, healing. What do you know? And then all of a sudden, the church is kind of letting it in. Little by little, it starts to come in. However, the books that were removed, and this is the first thing I want to get to, and right now we're talking about Catholicism, Christianity, different denominations, all within that faith. The books that were removed still have not been put back into the Bible. So I want to talk a little bit about that. We know that there were, 14 books that were taken out of the Bible in 1684 from the Old Testament. A lot of this was surrounding Solomon's teachings, and Solomon was made to look very evil, very dark, very, very bad. There were books that were designed to train us mediums up in the light so that we didn't ever misunderstand where the information was coming from. ethical codes, what you were supposed to say, what you weren't supposed to say, all of this, there were tons of people who had the ability to do it, but some were stronger in it, born with an innate ability to automatically do it. And in these books that were removed, they were told not until you're 40 years old, or essentially not until you're old enough. You had to wait until you were really ready. And in the meantime, they were encouraged to develop in other areas, psychic ability, whatever, probably empathic ability, all of that. When the elders, the mediums, were understanding that this person seemed ready, they had a strong ethical foundation, and they were ready to use their discernment, then they brought them in, they trained them, and they would go out to the community and do the same thing. This was not uncommon. Mm-hmm. So incredibly unfortunate that these books have vanished and we can't get access to this training. So we've left mediums hanging. Mm-hmm. And they have essentially been either wiped out or we've been stuck with methods that are also considered against God, mm-hmm. which are essentially what? Meditation, right? Every major school of training out there, like it is God himself, right? You must meditate to become a medium. Meditate for 15 years. It is not the only tool out there to accomplish this task. Right. There was so much more. It's so unfortunate that was removed. I believe that the only book that still has it, I want to say 1611, okay, 1611, an English version of the Bible still has some of these books in it, but, need to bring this back. So let's talk about, our backgrounds just really briefly, like, where did you come from? What were you told?
It's kind of crazy because I was born into a Roman Catholic family, born, baptized, made my first communion, all that, Roman Catholic. And my father was a very, very religious man. And my mom, looked at religion that way. She believes in Jesus and God, and all that. And it's just kind of interesting because she was more open with her own abilities and stuff to where my dad was like, well, it must be allowed, So moving forward with that, I just, I was born into that. I went to a Catholic elementary school from kindergarten to 6th grade. We had religion class daily. We went to mass weekly, at least once a week, and if it was around a holiday, we went more. I went with my family, went with the school, and so forth. And the funny thing is every Halloween, my favorite costume was a witch costume.
Me too. I've never been anything.
I wore to school every year. Well, different costumes because I grew out of it. Except for the one year I was Wonder Woman. So every year, and there was never a note that went home to my mother saying it's not allowed. There was never anything. Nobody, no nun, because I was taught by nuns, pulled aside saying, no, you got to take this off. Nothing. I mean, the weird thing is, during the teachings in school, I really was never even, this was never brought to my attention that it was ever bad. Okay. That it was ever bad. Growing up, you hear certain sermons and, readings from certain books in the Bibles and so forth. And at least in the Catholic church that I went to, it was never really brought up. So as I developed, as I was getting older and I was receiving messages and knowing things and so forth, I often questioned if it's something that is the often question it.
Absolutely.
And I would go to God. God was the only one I was talking to. I mean, even to now, I lay my head at night and I say my prayers. Guess where they're going? Straight up.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I came from a similar background. I was raised up in a Catholic family from both sides of my family, but we were also located outside of Lilydale. And my family believed that there was a continuation of life after death.
Right.
And they would access, as do many religions, Anybody really in any kind of power, they access those mediums, they access those psychics. They just don't want the average person doing it. So we were in and out talking to the mediums at Lilydale, the largest spiritualist community in the world, and hiding it. When we went to school, Catholic school, I did eventually make it into a public school. But while I was at Catholic school, I was told that Jesus, essentially, the way it looked to me as a kid, Jesus was a medium. Jesus appeared to be a psychic. Jesus was most certainly a healer. I didn't have any misunderstandings about that. Then I was able to communicate with angels on a regular basis, would come to me. I was communicating with the deceased, and sometimes I was communicating with Jesus. I thought that was the point of school. I thought that's what they wanted me to do. But apparently not. Because the minute that came out, I was going to burn in hell. So I was like, okay, you know what? These people are confused. Because the only thing I knew for sure was that the guidance I was being given, the times Spirit would come through for me, leave me messages, objects, help me through situations, divine intervention, it was always for the greater good. For me.
Absolutely, yes.
Which essentially is for the greater good, right? And it never became a situation where I was getting any kind of guidance that was going to do harm to others. It was always best for me, best for others, and I continued on with that path, which led me into, psychic mediumship and basically rejecting the Catholic Church because of that shameful teaching and that categorization. It just made everything false to me, and I started to think, if they've got this wrong, what else do they have wrong?
Right. I mean, and incidentally, too, I kind of want to add is that at those moments throughout periods of our life where we are human, and I like to look at myself as being of service to God and so forth. And at those moments throughout my life, teenage years and so forth, where I was brought upon difficult times, where I had to take care or deal with some issues, depression and so forth, I would ask for help. I would pray to God and Jesus and, the saints and angels and so forth and ask for help. And, and upon those questions asking, is this right? Is this something I'm supposed to be doing? Not only would I receive my answers, but my own self, my own abilities would just increase.
Absolutely.
So what else am I led to believe that this is okay? Because I'll tell you what, I want nothing to do with anything low or negative or dark.
That's right.
And I always go up to God first.
It's not hard. It's not hard to tell the difference. And this is one of the biggest arguments, if not the biggest argument, that major religions push against what we do, is that it is in conjunction with the devil. Everything we're receiving is coming from the devil. Now, they do that successfully because people are terrified of the unknown. And mediumship is a confusing type of a thing. It's very mysterious.
Absolutely.
I mean, people today don't even know what the heck it means. Absolutely. If you say psychic, they have somewhat of an idea. You say medium, people are like, wait, what? There's still a lot of that out there.
And there's big differences between you.
And there are huge differences between what a psychic is and a medium is.
Right.
So there's a lot of confusion. People are more willing to stay within the boundaries of fear and safety than to go out and explore and open their eyes. So connecting everything that we do to hell and Satan or jinn is easy. Okay, and they get to hold the people there, which means they get to hold the power. They are disempowering individuals from being able to go within themselves and connect with their God energy, their own intuition, so that the church itself is the only place where the real power exists.
Right.
And they like to just, eliminate, essentially, anything other than that. So what we're going to talk about next, I know we do have a caller coming in. We're going to talk about who Jesus was. Okay, what did Jesus do? Yes. We have a call? Hello, caller. Can you hear us? I don't know that they intended to speak. Hello?
They hang up.
Okay, so let's talk about this. If it is so bad, if doing this is so terrible, okay, and these religions are based on God and then, Jesus in the New Testament, what did Jesus do? What was your interpretation?
Basically that, Jesus was himself like a prophet. So
right.
He came down and, he was born to a woman and a man, and he was born to do great things. He was able to speak to his father, who was God, his stepfather, who was Joseph, as we know. And, he was, prophesied as being somebody who would bring forth, change and, all this stuff. So as he, got older, he, preached on the steps of some churches and some buildings, and he would go and he would attend weddings where he turned, water into wine and brought forth fish and bread and all kinds of, things. So, I mean, we
like a magician.
Like a magician. He used to build things. He would go to somebody and heal them. Mm-hmm. He would save somebody from being, stoned to death,
So, Jesus as a medium was not exclusively the only one able to do this. Now, we had, prophets all over the place. Mm-hmm. And that was something that was welcomed in the church. Now, all of that, of course, having been eliminated over the years, we're left with just Jesus at the head. And then the only people who have almost direct access to this, really being the church, they have the only say so in what's right and what is wrong. However, with discernment, okay, the ability to tell negative spirits from positive spirits or spirits in the light, we can put the power back in the people's hands and say, this is really all about intent. Why did Jesus do such good work? Because his intent was to heal other people. He was love, he was a very loving, giving person who wanted to carry forth, his Father's will and so forth. So his intent, it means because on the technicality, born, he himself was a human being, a much higher evolved human being, but he was a human being, and his whole sole intent was to have love for people, unconditional love for people. And that's my intent. Is that your intent? That is my intent completely. Ding, ding, ding. Ta-da. So then what happens, right? And, the other question I do want to say, too, is that we look at stories, like Moses, Joan of Arc, and so forth. Right. And these were regular people who, Moses was chosen by God to receive the Ten Commandments to help people. Right. Joan of Arc was chosen to help, France win a war, and so forth. Could we really kind of look at it like, psychics, mediums and so forth, choose a life of helping individuals with unconditional love to help them with their lives, to help them heal, to help them move forward. But because we choose a life that is not of the cloth, we choose, which I have to say, I know you are. I'm an ordained minister now, and so are you. Thank you. So it's like, just because we don't choose to become nuns or priests, but we still give love and we still want to help others, we're branded as being. Right. Well, we're out there on the streets a little bit more. It's touchable. It's attainable. It's down to earth. And that's why I'm in this walk, versus that. I considered being a nun, as a kid. I think, we all did. And at some point you're like, this isn't really it's not going to function this time around. And for some people it does. But for me, it was not going to. And we all have our own path. So whether you're thinking about getting, Reiki certified, you want to go out there and start healing that way. Jesus also did. A lot of the foundation of Reiki trainings is, believe that it came from. These were some of Jesus's methods. You want to be a psychic medium, you want to be an empathic healer to people, whatever it is, an energy worker. We have a million options. We don't all have to, go and become priests and nuns. Now, on this, topic of discernment, I'll tell you what, one of the first times that I remember having to use my own discernment as a kid was when I would see a shadow come into my doorway, and I noticed that it was making me uncomfortable, and I had a very strong inclination to run away. I wasn't allowed because it was the middle of the night, and I was supposed to be staying in my bed.
Right.
And I was to examine, read the energy of this figure that was standing in my doorway and find out whether it really was as negative as it was making me feel,
right,
or maybe it wasn't quite so bad. It would come on a regular basis, and I found out actually from a medium in Lilydale that it was my grandfather. And as a small child, I think I was 6 at the time, as a small kid, you're not sure about stuff like that. You just see something and you kind of freak out. You just run, you close your eyes. Your immediate response is fear. Adults aren't any different, that's for sure.
Right.
So to hear from a medium that was my grandfather coming around, I learned how to sit with an energy for a second. And this is what I'm always teaching the students, right?
Yeah.
Is to don't immediately judge and run for the hills. Let's
right.
not be a bunch of sheeple taking off,
right.
and not ever helping anyone because we can't even help ourselves. Calm down.
Absolutely.
You spend a moment, just a moment. Don't allow yourself to become possessed or to have an attachment. You don't have to have dinner with things or buy wine. You just take a moment to reflect on the energy of whatever spirit it is that you feel is coming through, and you pay attention to physical, mental, emotional reactions to it. Now, physically, when something negative is coming to bother you, what do you feel?
I do something what I have done for years, and I learned to do this as a kid, because going to different places and being an empath, you're used to feeling energy, and you can actually tell whether or not there's positive or negative behind that. So I do what is called gut checking. So once I start to feel the energy coming, I stop and I say, okay, is this good? How does it make me feel? Is it bad? How does it make me feel? And go from there. So that's the first thing I learned to do at a young age. I think I was about maybe like 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there, when I really started to feel energy. Otherwise, I was seeing shadow people, from a young age to about that point. That's those points of development that you talk about. So around that age, I was just like, oh, what is this? And I used to have lucky me, an internal warning system at certain times of an hour, especially my birth time, I would get a stomachache. Generally, that meant something negative. And I would wait for it and learn from it. But that's me. I'm one of those people that absorbs and learns from everything. So, but you got to check.
Here are the basics. Okay, physically, what you should feel is a burning. If something bad is near you. Now, this is simple, people. And there isn't a spirit in the world that's going to pull the wool over your eyes and take away these physical, mental, emotional reactions. It is law. There is a law. There's universal law, energy, order to things.
Right.
Okay, so we have to have faith in that order, first things first. You feel a burning at the base of your neck and up into your head. You'll have an instant migraine headache. You'll feel like there's an ice pick, like a knife, going into your ear, at the sharp pains in the head. Anywhere in the head, really, but also a twisting, almost like a knife in the guts. I say twisting of the guts, like if somebody kicked you in the guts, or you had a horrible ulcer attack, a heaviness of the stomach, a feeling like you're going to vomit, also a sadness, a sick feeling. If you've ever had this horrible foreboding feeling like something bad was going to happen, and you didn't know exactly what, but you knew something bad was coming, and you feel sick, and like you can't even function, you just want to crawl in a hole, that's what you're going to feel. You would also, I want to say, feel sad, depressed, anxiety-ridden, like you're going to crawl out of your skin, like you want to run, dizzy, unable to control a physical anxious reaction, and a desire to run, but sometimes with an inability to do so, because it's like draining your energy, so you almost feel stuck. These are things to watch for. Let me ask you this. Has your spirit from the light ever come through to give you a message and you experienced any of those things?
Absolutely not.
No.
It is the complete opposite. I mean, some people even get the warm and fuzzy feeling, like you feel like just that you won the lottery or something. Like you just have this like beautiful radiating energy that you feel that's around you, and you feel love. Even some people, even myself, it makes you cry. because you actually feel that love and you feel that emotion that is coming into you from that light, from that love, from that spirit.
Absolutely. It's uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you feel at peace.
Absolutely.
It allows you to calm down enough that you can, listen, even go into trance states and allow. And from the information, and this is what I started to test as a kid, okay, let's say maybe school is right. Maybe all of this is bad. Let's see, and I tested. Yeah. Let's see what these spirits are telling me.
I did the same.
And let's see if what they're telling me is evil, is causing bad things to happen. Never. Always good. Always healing. Always for the greater. Oh, okay. Again, okay, discernment. Is it rocket science? Not really.
Not really, no.
But you do have to eliminate your fear for a second.
Absolutely.
To at least do it.
Right, absolutely, because like what we should know from, I would think it would be common knowledge, but from what you teach as well, the thing is, if you hang on to that fear and you're continuously afraid, it's almost inviting something negative to come.
And so, this is a huge teaching here at the Academy, is that you actually attract negative and lower spirits to you by being an ego-based or a fear-based individual. So a lot of people who are, holy rollers are attracting the negative to them. Well, we're in the safety zone. Go figure, right? The devil worshippers are in the safety zone, and they're all wrapped up in that, which does fairly quickly cause mental illness. You can see a lot of that in their behavior, a lot of hatred and prejudice. We have a caller coming in. Hello, caller. Hi. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. What's your name and what's your comment or question?
My name is Brittany, and my question is, it's been about 1.5 years since my father transitioned, and I believe he tries to speak to me in my dreams, and I just wanted to know if he was trying to get like a message across to me.
Okay. Well, that is the most common thing that they're going to do until you start to be able to really receive the messages while you're awake. He's going to need to come through in dreams. That's good that he's effective at doing so. I would watch for a funny ringing in your ears or a feeling of pressure in your ears. That would also be him coming through, and I can feel him coming up behind you. I want to say more over to the left side and standing behind you a great deal. The message that I'm feeling right now with him is don't be holding yourself back. I feel like there have been circumstances that are holding you back a bit. I feel like I'm talking about some relationship stuff, but I'm also feeling work and money. And it looks like there are a lot of new opportunities coming up, and you really need to be open to going forward. So it seems to be, yes, some circumstances, but more importantly, your mental capacity, your thinking behind these circumstances that's going to help to propel you forward. He doesn't want to see you miss any of this. What are you getting with this?
No, I'm right where you are. I was actually getting, as you said, new circumstances so far that I kept seeing pink daisies. So pink, as we know, is new. It's new, can be new relationships, it could be new adventures and so forth. And and I was also getting pennies. I'm seeing pennies. There's like maybe under pillows, under mattresses, even just kind of just thrown in the way of just walking normally. Gifts.
The next month is going to be big, so a lot of new information coming into you, 2 to 3 different pieces of information, and then you're going to need to make some decisions within the next 4 months, but I think before that. Okay, so he'll continue to work with you. Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys are spot on. He actually works with me through the light, too. Like he flickers light. Yeah, it's really cool.
He would have to be able to manipulate energy effectively if he can come through in dreams.
Yeah. So
you're actually really lucky that he is that strong to be able to utilize either one of those. And if they can do one, they can do the other. So spirits communicate in all different ways, but he is really up there with his power in communication.
Yeah.
So you're lucky.
Yay! Thank you.
Good. A ton of love to you from him. Okay, keep moving forward. Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're back on to talking a little bit about discernment. We have some quotes here that I just found very interesting, because for as many times as the church has said, you should never do this, you should never toy with fortune-telling, psychic ability, mediumship, communicating with the spirits. What exactly is a Christian definition on discernment in the Bible, right?
It's basically, you have your standard, your definition of discernment, which is the ability to judge well. But in Christian context, it's perception in the absence of judgment, which is viewed to obtaining spiritual direction and understanding.
Okay, can you read that one more time?
Sure. Perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual direction and understanding.
Okay, so basically what that's saying, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that we are to go to Spirit in a time of discernment if we're unsure, and allow, ourselves to, through our intuition, perceive whether or not it's okay and it's a go-ahead.
I would assume, because it even go even further. It does say discernment to be the ability to obtain sharp perceptions to judge well. The activity in doing so. In case of judgment, discernment can be philosophical or moral in nature within judgment.
So we have to trust that Spirit will lead and guide us in the right direction.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Which has always been my own, with growing up and everything. I always believed that, God would drive me.
Isn't that the point of God?
Isn't the
whole point of getting invested in the belief of God is that, it's a net, that we have someone who has our back and would understand and have wisdom to understand different situations, in life. So, I just find it interesting that there's so much talk of discernment, but we are slacked. Our hands are slacked away from ever using it. Get real. So, we have some different ideas here about communication with the negative and lower energies and psychics and mediums. And I do want to be honest. I have trained. At this point, I don't even know how many students have come through the academy in the last, we're approaching our 4-year anniversary here this summer. I don't think it's been hundreds per se, just in level 1 psychic mediumship, but it certainly has been plenty. I've never really counted. We've had a ton of students come through, and I will say this. Sometimes they graduate and go off and become dark. I cannot control that.
Right.
The idea that they should never be trained, they're too young to be trained, they're incapable of doing it, is hogwash. Everybody needs to be trained. Everybody is capable of psychic mediumship. Everybody needs to learn and utilize these skills. But we have to take responsibility for ourselves. Now, that means that there are psychic and mediumistic people out there who maybe have gone to the dark side, or they never really left it. They just cleaned up their act when they were in here. But if that is the case, and you are afraid to choose a medium, we're going to give you some tips on how to know whether or not you're going to a dark one or you're going to a real one who's working in the light. You have any comments on this?
Boy, do I.
Any nice comments on this?
Nice comments. Well, I mean, first and foremost, the thing is like this. A lot of people, there has been a stereotype too as well. A lot of people do say that people that are working with God or have been blessed by God or given gifts or abilities to do this shouldn't charge or don't charge money. And if you do charge, that is negative, that is evil, that is whatever. And this is something I personally have really fought with for years, because I too have that belief that I am doing of service, and it's something that was given to me, so why should I charge? But the thing I have to say is that I'm also a human being who has rent to pay. I have a life to live. I need to eat, and feed my cat and my husband and so forth. And so it's like having to put a price on time is really what kind of needs to be done. It's not that I'm charging you to channel a loved one or to go to, to whomever and ask. It's merely just my time, really.
And I want to say that the stigma out there for that is huge still today, that we should not be charging. Now, I will say this. When Spirit came to me years ago and said, give up your journalism, give up everything in your life to be of service and do this full time, I was never told that I wasn't going to get to ever eat again.
Right.
And that's not how it happened.
Right.
So it's a ridiculous argument. Absolutely, it's an exchange for time. However, every session that I do is from the light.
Absolutely.
Where it is a shame to be charging is if someone is doing it from a dark energy.
Correct.
Polluting the client with negativity. And we know when this is happening. One of the first things you could do to see whether or not you're actually working with a light worker is to look in their eyes. Take a look.
Yeah.
Look at their body language. Okay? And if they are deceiving you with any of that, honestly, in the eyes, you really can't deceive that.
That's where I look when I talk to people. Anyway.
Absolutely. Well, I don't actually. When I'm reading, I'm looking at the floor. I'm not paying any attention to them whatsoever. But, in between, take a look at the person. Do you see darkness in the eyes? Do you see something shady? Does it look like they're trying too hard, to look a certain way?
And they asking you a ton of questions.
Oh, they should never be asking you. Really, like almost anything. Anything. Also, though, the first sign that you're working with someone dark, there's negative information coming out of their mouths without healing or preventative purposes. If they're saying negative stuff to you, bad things are going to happen, one thing after another, health issues, they see all this drama, that's because they're a low-level energy with nothing more than psychic ability.
Right.
Now, they can tell you it's coming from a spirit, but spirit doesn't work that way.
Not to our knowledge.
No, it does not.
It does not.
So if they're giving it to you, you've got a psychic on your hands who could be accurate. And this is where the Quran, I believe, is correct. That some of them can get accurate pieces of information, but it's coming from a dark source.
Right. And we, like you just said, too, I have to iterate a little bit there, is that coming from the light, somebody who's working with the light, a light worker, is going to give you, if something that is slightly negative that you may be dealing with at the time does come up, they are going to offer some sort of a positive solution, outcome, or something to help you to move forward, still offering advice and so forth in a positive manner,
right on,
not negatively.
Right on. So, here at the Academy, what we're always talking about is you do not open your mouth and give a negative piece of information until Spirit has given you, or your intuition has given you the solution for healing or preventative reasons. Absolutely. Also, if they're giving you a bunch of negative stuff and they're charging you a boatload of money and you're walking away and then you're having these self-fulfilling prophecies, you just bumped into a toxic character. So again, it is not really, rocket science that we learn, to avoid these things, and we use our own discernment. There are, I will say, plenty of good mediums who came through, maybe the school, or I've seen them over my lifetime. I've been watching since I was little, mediums from all over the world, but also Lilydale, and I've seen plenty of them be good at one point, working in the light, and go bad. Can it happen? Sure. Are you at high risk? Not if you use your discernment. It has nothing to do with you, so just be careful. You should be doing that with everything anyways, right?
I do want to say something, too. I did read while I was looking online, and there was one comment and so forth that was listed on it, and on a like a Christian website and so forth, and it did say something along the lines of like, psychics and mediums have time to look you up on Facebook, to look up your information.
Right. Yeah, I have all kinds of time.
Your caller ID on a phone
Someone said it to me yesterday. And so,
I don't have time for that. Are you kidding?
No, somebody said to me yesterday on Facebook, because I offered like the free readings. The students are doing the free readings, and this guy was like, "Oh, I'm sure they all have time to look me up and check out my background, but all come in to get a free reading anyways." I was like, "Oh, you think? Yeah, this is what we do."
Well,
thanks for slapping me in the face twice.
And here's the thing, too, is that they want to basically judge us based on what they think we may do and everything, but yet they're still going to come because it's free.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it's just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and don't think that anyone in power isn't using a psychic or a medium. No one in any real position of power, right, is relying on their own skill. Everybody uses us. So it's all a matter of convenience.
We should be complaining.
Yeah, really. I am. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I'm doing. You know, we also have an interesting saying here in the Jehovah belief system that I like this quote: the dead are asleep in death. Okay, so really it is only the devil tricking you. It's an interesting concept that the dead, I know there's no belief in, like life after death, but that they're gone, and so any other gaps that there are in different faiths, it's because they believe that life does not continue. But then explain all of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the part that gets confusing because, they even put it in there and they speak about reincarnation and everything too.
Well, then go figure. Right.
Go figure. So, I mean, it's confusing. I'm just going to say this. Growing up as a Catholic child, and everything and learning, I was extremely confused a lot of the time.
Right.
And I was the child who challenged my teachers, whether it be a nun or so forth, but it wasn't in a bad way. It was asking because I always wanted that proof. I was that type of kid who wanted that proof. And sometimes they gave it, sometimes they really couldn't, But that's a good question, though, is they always say that it's the devil or some sort of demon or fallen angel or something that is whispering these things in our ear. Honestly, I have seen and witnessed over the years and stuff, and I know where to keep my faith and everything else, and that is to, God Almighty and so forth, is that I would think that they would have a little bit something else that they have to do than to be telling me something I already know about a family member.
Yeah, right.
Or so forth. So,
you know what? That's a good point. I mean, again, this is how they put themselves up on such a pedestal that the entire universe, the good dark forces of the universe are working to keep them from going to the bank on Tuesday or to tell them to go into a different, come on. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares. That is not what's happening here. This is very simple. It's very good. It's very healing if we're using it in the right way. It's not a complicated system. Now, in the Native American, and I want to say African tribes, I don't know about every tribe, but we had a lot of comments on Facebook about this type of thing, where Native tribes just automatically, meaning Native American, automatically believed that there were children within the tribe that were supposed to grow up and do this kind of work. They were prophets. They were seers, most commonly called the seers. Right. And were supposed to go into their training, and there was no fear element. There was no blocking of this whatsoever. It was accepted and embraced. And I want to say that in the African tribes, if a child is a seer, and the elders know this, and the child decides not to, out of fear, not to train and become a psychic medium, essentially, they end up being put into a welfare system by the time they're 30 years old, because they develop, like clockwork, mental illnesses, and they become unable to function within the tribe in any real capacity to give use. So they just stick them in a welfare system. Now, it's a respectful system. They're keeping them alive and all of that. But you can't force a seer to be trained. And I want to say, the biggest disgrace to all of us, all over the world, has been that this terrible categorization of psychic mediums and healers with sorcerers and
devil worshippers and
murderers and rapists has kept us from being empowered, has kept us from being healthy, has literally made us mentally ill, crazy, on meds, locked up, disabled, criminal. I mean, it creates depression, and it causes the very thing the church is stating that we are to avoid, which is attachments, demonic possession.
Right.
We cannot run from this forever. It is time to get back to our roots. And this has become an absolutely absurd argument, so much that people are sitting back and they're laughing at it. At the same time, do you think they're ready to walk the walk? Most of them are so fear-based, judgmental, critical, laughing, poking fun, that they still really don't get it. And they're not supporting one another go forward. And it's time for a revolution on this.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and that's the other thing too, is there are, Catholic priests that, and I don't know the statistic on this, but there are Catholic priests that go on to train to become like exorcists. They go on to help remove these, demonic possessions and so forth, and, to help people that way. So, we're not going to sit here and say that it's, that part of it is not true or anything else. I mean, things that are negative, things that are very dark and evil, it does exist. But the thing is like we talked about before, is we are in control of our own minds and bodies. We have intent in everything else. Yes, we're human. Mm-hmm. Yes, negative can come in and bother us and everything else. But it's a simple fact that, I as a person, like I said, struggled with the whole religion versus is this right, is this not for years. I'm going to honestly say at the end of the day, as I said, my faith is strong in belief in God and the angels and Jesus and love and everything else. And that's where my prayers go to. So please don't tell me.
Don't tell me what I'm doing.
That I'm a bad person.
Check your own self. Yeah,
when
really.
I'm helping everybody else before myself.
Well, and if you are a medium that goes dark, it's removed.
Right.
It's removed
another good
from
point.
you.
Absolutely.
So if you see a medium who's living a dark lifestyle, is making bad, negative choices, and they're still saying that they're communicating with spirit, they are either lying, they're getting the information psychically, because that can't be removed. Mm-hmm. They are getting it from a psychic source.
Another source, yeah.
Yeah, or they're getting it from negative, darker, lower spirit.
Right.
Which is totally possible and can be accurate.
And probably they are being fooled. So it comes down to...
Or they like being fooled.
Or they like
to.
So it really comes down to the demeanor of the individual, too.
Yeah.
And everything else. So.
Yeah, you got to watch. You do have to be careful. But is it all this? No, it is not all this. Okay? Not even in the ballpark. And why? Why has it been said that we are so bad and evil? Is it to keep women down because women's intuition is much, much stronger than men's? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that's all that there is to it. I think it has a lot to do with keeping the power in the churches. It's keeping the religious headers, just like government or anything else, at the top of the game. And the only way to do that, ever, in the history of the world, has always been to instill fear. Well, your soul going to hell and burning for an eternity might cut it. Apparently it has.
I'm still out in church.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't burst into flames lately, but, I'll try it again tomorrow.
But, and that's the only thing, too, is, I'm not going to sit here and tell a person not to go and not to listen to their pastor or anything else like that, because obviously they are there to help give the laws, governed by God, help people, and so forth, Right. But what I am going to say is, if you're questioning in your own mind, please educate yourself. By all means, educate yourself and ask those questions.
At all times.
We're not always, perfect or anything else. We're all human and so forth. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm just one of those people like, just don't judge me till you know me. You know what I mean?
Yep. Amen. How cute would we have been in our little witch suits hanging out when we were little?
All right? I know. My goodness.
Do it in October. We have a psychic fair coming up at Margin Manor Winery with graduates of Ivy League Psychic Academy the last Sunday of every month for the next 4 months. We also have, I'm looking for vendors for the September 23rd Silo City Psychic Fair here in Buffalo. If you don't go to any other psychic fair throughout the year, you have to make this one. It is a huge hit. If you're looking to book a reading with me, you could do that. Find me on Facebook at Ivy Rivera, or go to IvyRiveraPsychicMedium.com. And where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook at Theresa Matuszak Psychic Medium.
Okay, guys, thanks so much. We will see you next Sunday, correct?
The other Sunday.
Oh, maybe yes. 2 Sundays from now. Check us out on the Facebook page, Academy Talk Radio, Ask the Medium. Take care of each other.
Have a good night.
There is more to me, Queen Eliara of Elfgard, than my elven magic. Just as there's more to Geico than saving you money, Geico also gives you 24/7 access to licensed agents online, on the phone, or on the Geico app. And while I am a mighty elf queen, I am also a mighty big fan of barbecue potato chips. Minions! More smoky mesquite.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
There is more to me, Queen Eliara of Elfgard, than my elven magic. Just as there's more to Geico than saving you money, Geico also gives you 24/7 access to licensed agents online, on the phone, or on the Geico app. And while I am a mighty elf queen, I am also a mighty big fan of barbecue potato chips. Minions! More smoky mesquite.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.